Hi Viraj, how are you doing?
All good, all good. How about you?
Amazing. I'm so excited to be chatting with you and to be taking this conversation forward in terms of the India Art Fair. And it's important for the audiences to know that why, I mean, sort of how does it feel to be an artist? Because you are, as you say, often an accidental artist. So how does it feel to be an artist? And also, why do you create art? I know this is a bit of a it's a loaded question, but just feel free to
Yeah,
answer however you
I
think.
think I'll answer the second one first. Why do I create art? I think when I create art for the viewer, I want them to look at the works and think about how they are being influenced by different different things in their life. For example, how society is influencing them, how people are influencing them, how they are putting on pretty much a show in their lives to be seen or perceived in a certain way. And for me, when I create it, it's like a constant reminder to me to pretty much be myself. Like, for example, when I'm creating all this work, I'm actually imagining how people are being influenced or how they are behaving. And then it's like a constant reminder to me as an artist or as a human being to just make sure I'm always myself, and in I'm just being the person that I want to be.
Yeah.
And how does it feel to be an artist? I think it's quite liberating being an artist, because it's funny how a certain label can make you behave in a certain way. And I don't think I would ever, as a human, as a person, pretty much paint my clothes or paint a shoe. I actually just took one of my old shoes and just painted the whole thing. I think just the thought, just being labeled as an artist, I'm like, yeah, I can do some crazy things. So it's interesting how that happens. And also I think it's quite funny that earlier I would feel guilty of taking a day off or not doing anything, and nowadays it's just like, since I'm an artist, I can do that. So I'm just enjoying a free day, or just sitting alone in a cafe. And even my parents have pretty much stopped telling me, what, you're not doing anything today, why not? Because it's like I'm just using that time to almost self-reflect and just be alone. It's just great. I think it's a great feeling to be an artist.
That's amazing. I feel like that's such an interesting answer. But yeah, I think that the label of an artist is very empowering in a creative sort of way. So tell me a little bit about because it's your first time and you're in the spotlight section and we're working primarily with your textile pieces. So tell me a bit more about textile and why highlighting textile. Like you've obviously, being Anamika Khanna's son, which obviously now you've paved your own path. But why do you think that textile is something that you've grown up around and has, in some ways, maybe shaped your perspective or impacted you, and is a medium that you're working with actively as an artist today?
So I think, so far, I think tapestries and textiles, they have been thought of as a craft. It has not been seen as a medium, to put out fine art. And I
Yeah.
think, this time, I think what I'm trying to do is do a contemporary spin on the kind of work that has been used, generations after generations in a certain way. So I want to create more thought-provoking art out there that makes people introspect about human behavior and human condition. So it's almost like taking something that has been used for so many generations in a certain way and putting it out there in a totally different perspective. That is pretty much my vision as an artist this year at the fair.
Lovely. And just sort of to backtrack a bit before we dive into the fair, I wanted to talk about your art journey personally so far, right? And like how does it feel to create the pieces that you create and to see them come alive, as per your imagination? Because as you said, it's completely different. It's abstract, contemporary figures, and abstract art essentially. So how does it feel to, create this art, to be an artist, and how has the journey been so far?
I think so far the journey as an artist, it's been quite hectic for me. Just pretty much starting out during the lockdown, and just in 2 years doing almost finishing 4 solo shows has been quite a hectic journey. So I'm pretty much creating art almost with deadlines, and I feel like now, post something like this, I want to start creating art, just for myself, almost like without thinking of a certain objective. almost just constantly just introspecting more and
Yeah.
you know experimenting more with different techniques. That's what I actually want to do now. But I think yeah, I mean, I feel like as an artist I just need more time to keep on growing, and that can only happen when I'm working without any kind of a deadline. Like, for example, just did a show recently in Delhi in December, and now doing the art fair just after that. So I've been constantly on a roller coaster ride, and that is
Yeah.
something that I think I need a break from as an artist, honestly speaking, so
So
that I
would you
can
say do you say do you feel like you create art without any end intention and it's more about the process for you personally?
I think what I'm trying to do as an artist is with my work, taking a medium like that has been used in a certain way for so many years and creating these contemporary figures. What I'm trying to do is get people to view the medium as something that is more serious and something that almost like a fine art, in a way, because for so many years tapestries and textiles have been used in a way to show society, a rank in society and a hierarchy. That's why people wear them. And
Hmm.
it'll be interesting to put it out there as a means of thinking about how a hierarchy or a societal rank is influencing your behavior. So almost
Yeah.
using different materials in a certain way, but now you're actually thinking about why people behave in certain ways as an influence of society. So I'm using different materials almost to express that.
Amazing, amazing. And I think that, you not only, of course, textile, but in your journey, you've also dappled with sculptures and paintings as well. So
Yeah.
do you think that it's all independent mediums, or do you feel like in your art, because of this sort of introspective, art that you have, do you think it's all connected and interrelated to each other, all the three different mediums?
I think for me, all the different mediums have different energies,
Hmm.
and for example, sculpture or something that I usually create a certain figure with my sculptures that has a certain kind of lip and a certain expression, and that is something more fun. But textile as a medium is something that I look at a little more seriously, and something that I want people to deep dive more into when you're seeing my work in textile,
Hmm.
and almost like reflecting on human behavior. But when I'm creating works with sculptures, it's like a fun play with how I'm seeing the world. It's like a reflection of the way I'm seeing the world. Like, just as an example, the sculptures that I make, which you will see at the fair, it's a figure with a plumped up lips and like almost like a plastic surgery sort of a face. It's like
Yeah.
taking the way I'm looking at the world, the way I'm reflecting on the world, taking something like that and creating a more fun and imaginative figure. That is something I do with sculptures. But with textiles, it's a totally different energy, and I want people to look at my textile work and actually imagine, like, all of them are figurative in nature. So I want people to imagine people in their lives that depending on the energy that the textile is giving out. So different materials that I use in my textile work have different energies. For example, if I'm using simple thread work or just simple, if it's a simpler technique, it does represent a simpler sort of energy. And for example, if I'm using metallic work or if I'm using more glittery sequence, it's a different energy. So when people look at the work that I'm creating or the figure that I'm creating that has more of sequence, it's like almost trying to show a certain kind of extravagance in the nature of the person. Or for example, if I'm using something that's more subtle or simpler, it's like showing simpleness in that person. So it's open to interpretation, and it's open to how people whatever people see in that work. So I want the viewer to imagine people that they are surrounded by. So it's totally subjective. I want them to imagine someone in their lives when they look at my work, and that's why it's always more abstract and more figurative in nature. So it's open to that person's interpretation.
That's very interesting because usually when people would see textile, you'd assume that if there's more sequence or if it's more jazzy, it's more from an aesthetic perspective, right? But you
Yeah.
speak of images, and I think that it's almost like you're capturing. At least whenever I've interacted with your textile pieces, I feel like you're capturing an aura of a person, or rather, like something when someone walks into the room, the kind of energy they bring in, right? So
Yeah.
it's very fascinating to know that the correlation between the aesthetic. So it's a very layered work, because the aesthetic is one layer, but it's trying to take you deeper into sort of understanding people and having perspectives on people as well. So that's fascinating. That's very
Yeah.
interesting. Okay, great. And do you think that textile is a medium that you feel most comfortable with?
I think so. Just to give a little more background, like since I got back, I got done from university in 2018, and after university, I joined my family business. And what I was looking into in the family business was actually embroidery. That's the embroidery section of the business. And
Yeah,
what my role there was to actually look at different kinds of embroidery and price them, or almost
yeah,
assess the quality. So based on my assessment, a price would be given to that kind of work. So what I've done for so many years, it's almost like I've been skilled at looking at embroidery and different kinds of embroidery, and the time that it takes, and the finishing and the quality of that piece. So I think because of that, I almost, and also I have seen so many different kinds of works, and I think as a medium of expression for me, since I've seen so much and I've always been surrounded by it, I find it much easier to put out what I actually in that medium.
yeah. No, that's great. And in terms of the actual process of the textile, if you could, maybe shed some light on the Ari, the Zardosi, and also the kind of like, how do you make a decision on whether this piece should have this technique, or are you also improvising along the way?
Okay, so I'll tell you how the process is begins. So I usually start by making a small collage. So I'm
Yeah,
cutting out different pieces of, just different
yeah,
magazines I'm cutting out, or encyclopedias, or newspapers, and cutting out different elements and portions from there. And, then I start putting them together. So the actual, thinking is happening while I'm making the collage. So I'm
yeah.
creating the figure, like the
Vision of
figure,
the end
while
figure. Yeah,
yeah, so the structure is created with the collage. And then after that, a khaka is made based on that
yeah.
collage and the colors that I decide. I also paint that collage to, give it more of an impact while creating the
Hmm.
textile work. So if you see, so many times when I'll do a collage with a watercolor painting and, mix them. And so when I make my textile work, it looks like a watercolor painting. So I'm just constantly experimenting. And yes, of course, I think, what the structure is obviously decided freehand, like based on the collage. But once the khaka is made, which is a pencil drawing on a paper, and then it's pasted almost sort of on a fabric to give it the structure, then it's a lot of improvisation. Then it's really like so many materials in front of me, constantly deciding which one to put where with the karigars, and constantly thinking about what I want to put out there. So the structure is predefined, but the end object is based on experimentation.
Amazing, amazing. That's very interesting to know, because I feel like um, this kind of this kind of like process in textile is quite rare, because they usually work with set patterns or motifs, and this is
Yeah.
completely changing even the perspective of the karigars, which is amazing. Okay, and because you were speaking about perspectives that you are trying to bring about through your art, how do you think audiences should engage with your art? Is there a particular sort of idea you want them to take away, or is there a particular mind space maybe that you want them to be in while they view your art? Or is it, do you want to leave it completely open without any narrative so that they can make their own interpretations?
So when I create my artwork, I am usually thinking about a certain person and the energy that that particular person has, and I still keep it abstract, so that when the viewer also views that piece of work, they can also imagine someone in their life that it represents. So of course, I want them to. It is open to interpretation, and different people are going to see different things and going to imagine different people in their lives as per their life
Yeah.
experience. So of course, it's open to interpretation, and yeah, I feel like it's just a different experience for every person.
Okay. Okay, great. So fine, and just I guess to wrap this up, let's go back to the India Art Fair and talk about like the especially the experience of being a part of the Indian art world now? Do you feel like there are other artists that you've probably followed, that you appreciate, that you look up to? What is your general take on the Indian art scene so far?
So far, as per what I have seen in the last couple of years in the Indian art scene, I think there are a lot of people doing very interesting stuff. People are exploring different mediums as per what is happening in the world, and people are always constantly experimenting, which is great to see. And also textiles and tapestries coming up as a new medium, which galleries and artists and curators are putting out there. So it's very exciting to see that, and I feel like me also doing embroidery work and textile work and actually putting it out there and almost like fueling that energy. That that's what I think I'm very excited about the fair. And in terms of artists who I'm really following right now, I think Viraj Khanna, he's doing some fantastic work, and I really like his work because it's almost like you can see the freedom of that person and
Yeah.
what he's putting out there without any restriction. I think I love his work because of that. And also
Yeah.
Suhasini Kejriwal is someone that I really follow and look up to, and I'm excited to see her work as well at the fair.
Okay, lovely. Well, I mean, I think I'm very excited for this edition of the fair and working with you, and also we have a bit of an impact piece that we haven't yet sort of revealed, and it has to come together at the fair. But I'm quite excited to show that to the audiences. Yeah, so great, Viraj. It was really nice chatting with you, and I'm hoping that at the fair this year you have a great experience, and all the best, of course. Thank
Thank
you.
you, thank you. I'm looking forward as well to the fair, and thank you for chatting with me.